Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and when I went to high school, I learned about so many things that are still useful till this day. I learned about sedimentary rocks, different types of rocks, I learned about trigonometry. I'm still looking for the perfect time to go ahead and say, hey, I can solve that problem by solving for a tangent or cosine or whatever it is, okay? The point is, I didn't really learn that many things in high school that actually helped me in any way when it comes to the real world. And that's why today, I want to talk about home equity, how it works, how do you build it up, how do you access it, and on top of that, what exactly does it mean? Something you will not learn in high school. I hope I'm proven wrong. Maybe in the future it happens, but for the most part today, you don't get taught these things in high school, but at some point you will have to learn the hard way where you're going out there, you're trying to buy a house and you don't know what the heck the banker is actually talking about, okay? And you're gonna get finessed if you don't know what they're talking about, because basically they know more than you know, and that's not really like a fair bargain, right? It's not. But guys, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day on YouTube, so you should also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. On top of that, also destroying the like button. Now, the first thing I want to break down is basically, Tommy, what exactly is equity? How do you build equity in a home, and what exactly does it mean? Well, equity is basically the difference between the market value of your home and the amount of money you actually owe to the lender. That's all it is. So basically, how much is the home worth and how much do I owe on it, okay? And whatever is left, that's basically your equity on the home. And your equity is basically how much cash you actually have in that position, in that asset that's actually all yours. All that value is yours. So for example, let's say I went ahead and I bought a house in Florida, right? I go to Florida, I want to buy a house, and I find this house right here for around $300,000, right? That's the market value of the house, and that's also the appraisal on the house. So that's how much I'm gonna get the loan for. Now, in reality, I put down $50,000. So what exactly is my equity on this house? Well, in reality, the market value of 300K, and I only owe on that loan around $250,000, right? Because basically I put down 50K. So in reality, my equity is the amount of money I have in there, and that's around, again, $50,000. The market value of the property minus the amount I owe is going to give me the equity I actually have on that property. And that's basically how it works. Now, let's say, for example, over the next 5 years, I keep paying and paying and paying. And so far, I only owe the bank $200,000, but the house is still worth $300,000. So now, what is my equity? Well, in reality, again, 300K, the market value, minus the money I owe, $200,000 is gonna give me my equity, which is basically $100,000 in equity that I actually have in that house. And all that value is basically mine. And that's the cool thing about building equity. So again, always remember, okay, the market value minus the amount you actually owe is basically the equity on the home. And by the way, market value, I mean basically the amount you paid for that home, okay? Not the value that's actually worth out there, because basically that's a whole different problem for another video. But guys, if you ever notice, okay, if you watch my channel, you probably watch Graham Stephan, a guy that buys real estate all the time, and he always says, for example, hey guys, here's how I bought this house right here for free. I paid the mortgage, but some of it goes towards equity, some of it goes towards interest, so that's why I'm basically getting it for free, right? So basically, every time you pay the mortgage on a house, you pay interest, that's the bank's profit, also the capital on the actual loan that you actually owe. But as you pay down that loan, you're basically building equity in that home, because basically the bank no longer has ownership over that part. Now you have ownership over that small portion that you're paying towards every single month with your mortgage. And that's basically how it works. Equity is just the amount of value you get to build up on the property by paying it more and more and more. And the faster you're done with your mortgage, the more equity you get to build up on your entire property. However, though, if you notice, this also works when it comes to refinancing and also having a cash out refinance, okay? And by the way, when you refinance a home, it's usually because you either want the interest rate to be lower, or for example, the home value appreciated with time, and you basically want to get extra money taken out in cash for yourself. Now, Tommy, explain this and how does this work step by step? Well, let's say, for example, we're talking about the same property I bought in Florida, right? It cost me $300,000. That's the market value. I paid down so far $100K. That's my equity. And I only owe on it $200,000, right? That's how cool it is. However, let's say all of a sudden, Google decides to move into Florida. into my neighborhood. Now, what is going to happen now? Okay, a lot of people are going to come with high-paying jobs, going to move to that area, and now the values of the homes in that area is going to appreciate like crazy. So in this case, my home goes from being worth 300K to now being worth $500,000. But again, I bought it only for $300,000. So say for example, I can either keep paying the same mortgage, everything is fine, and then later on just sell the property for 500K and keep the difference, okay? That's how cool it is. But say for example, I want to refinance ASAP and take all that money in cash. How would I go ahead and do that? And what would happen to the equity I built of $100,000? Well, the way it works is pretty simple, okay? Again, let's say, the house is worth 300K when I bought it, but now it's worth 500K. I have 100K in equity, and I only owe the bank $200,000. That's all based on the $300,000 loan, okay? But now, I want to get some of that value from the 500K that the house is actually worth now. So what exactly do I do? Well, I ask for a refinance based on the $500,000 value. In this case, okay, because I have 100K in equity that I actually have, and then I owe the bank 200K, and the new loan amount is going to be for $500,000, in reality, the bank is going to give me an additional $200,000 in cash, which now means 100K in equity. I owe them 200K, but now an additional 200K, which is total of a mortgage of around $500,000. And that's basically how a cash out refinance basically works. Now I can grab the 200K, just pay down the mortgage, that's it. Or for example, grab that money out in cash and go out there and buy some real estate, buy a car, go on vacation, go for a wedding, do whatever I want with the cash. But usually, if you don't reinvest that money into something that makes you money, usually it's a bad idea, because basically you're borrowing against the house, but in reality, you're still going to have that new mortgage of 500K. And by the way, just like a house can appreciate, it can also lose value over time. Let's say, for example, Google says, hey, Florida is great, but I don't like the weather here. So Google goes ahead and moves out. Well, what happens now? The value of the homes go back down to 300K, but I still have a loan of 500K, right? So in reality, I'm paying for an asset that's only worth 300K, but I'm still paying 500K based on the value it used to be. So just remember, okay, real estate can go up, but it can also go down. So be very, very careful leveraging way too much. Now, let's say also, guys, that you've been building up the equity in your home for the past 10 to 20 years, and you're like, I have all this equity in this home, but what can I actually go ahead and do with it? If I have 100K in equity or 200K in equity, what can I do with that money to actually get it in cash? Now, we already spoke about refinancing for cash. We know that stuff, right? But now it's all about a different way to go ahead and get access to that entire equity that you actually have. Now, the first way is basically you can actually go ahead and get a HELOC. Now, a HELOC is basically a home equity line of credit, okay? That is what it stands for, HELOC. That's basically when you go ahead and say, hey, I have $10,000 in equity. Bank, can you go ahead and lend me 10K on a HELOC? They say, yes, we'll lend you that money. And in reality, that puts a lien against your house. Basically, for example, if you don't pay that HELOC, they can go ahead and foreclose on you. If they call your loan and you don't have the money, well, you have two options here. You go ahead, you get a new loan, or for example, you have to basically foreclose on the home. Now, rarely does that ever happen, because basically the bank wants to keep making more and more and more money from you. But usually, again, that's a terrible idea, because basically you just added more risk to actually losing your assets. So usually a HELOC, the interest is very high, and also the bank can call your loan within 1 to 2 years if they actually want to. So before you actually do this, make sure you understand all the terms. And usually 9 out of 10 times, I always say a HELOC is going to be a bad idea. Now, you can also, for example, get a second mortgage on the home you actually have, which also puts a lien on your property, which means basically you can get an extra mortgage, get that money, go ahead and use it, go on vacation, go for dinner, get a new car, whatever you want to do. But basically, if you don't pay that person, they go ahead and can also go ahead and close your property. Usually, all the ways to get access to your equity basically leverages your home and adds additional risk, and potentially you can actually lose your home. So usually, I don't recommend any of them, okay? Honestly, like 9 out of 10 times, I don't recommend any of them. In reality, I think the perfect way is basically, let's say, for example, I bought this home in Florida. I paid $300K, right? Over time, I paid off that home. I have $300,000 in equity, right? Over time, it appreciates over and over again. The value of the home grows. If I want to refinance, great if I want to, but if I don't, basically, because my housing cost is so much lower now, I can go ahead and grab my extra income that I make and buy another property. The only way you want to get access to your entire equity is if you want to speed up the process and go ahead and say, for example, hey, I want to go ahead, put my house to work, get that money out, buy some more properties over and over again. But before you know it, you might just have a lot of debt, a lot of leverage. And if your income fails or anything goes wrong, you might potentially just lose everything. So usually I wouldn't really try to basically, oh, let me get an equity loan here or something here. Usually just take your time with it and just go step by step. You buy your first house, you pay for it, you get a second one, a third one, a fourth one, but just go step by step. And that way you own everything. You have a lot of equity in it. And in reality, your payments are not going to be that much. That is the goal. But guys, comment down below and let me know, do you understand what equity is? Again, market value minus how much you owe is basically your equity in the home, and that's basically all it is. On top of that, market value that you actually paid for minus your equity usually tells you exactly how much you actually owe the bank. There's two ways to actually do it. If you want to get the equity or how much you owe the bank, that's the way you do it. But guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. As always, like this video if you liked it. On top of that, also subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified. And before I go, if you want to text me or call me, search my Patreon link down below or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And if you want to see a video on how to save for a down payment on a home, here's a video right here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.